everybody. Welcome to the live. We are back. It's Friday. H, how are you doing today, my friend?
Excellent. How are you, Kurt?
Well, I'm doing pretty good. We're live on Instagram, X, Facebook, Twitter.
Beautiful.
I guess like X and Twitter are the same thing now. But yeah, we are excited to chat with some of you guys. We're going to slowly progress this as far as we can, as far as production quality for you guys, get some of you guys involved in the lives over the next few months, maybe do some more live trainings like we did in the past. As I mentioned last week, I'm just getting used to StreamYard, so you saw our little intro video here if you were here right at 4, and we're going to be building out some of the pre-recorded content to mix into these videos. But without further ado, we're live, H. So
well, welcome to another Friday Night Live. To another Friday Live with Kurt and H. I hope you guys had a great week and there you're looking forward to the weekend. Maybe you're driving home now, you're just listening to this. Maybe you're already home, chilling out with your plants. Maybe you already consumed some of your own crop, like we always like to do on a Friday afternoon, or maybe you're just enjoying a beer. There's nothing wrong with that either. So hopefully you're home, relaxed, and looking forward to the weekend. Really quickly, what we're going to be covering today, especially if you haven't seen these before, we're going to go have a look at the plants that we have. We always like to do a little grow along. Right now, they're all in the seedling stage in our newly released bud cups. We're going to have a look at those. We're then going to go into any questions that you guys might have, and followed by you coming in live with us like we do every week for you to show us your plants, maybe ask any questions you have, show us the work that you've been doing by training your plants so that everybody else can also learn from you, not just us here. And I think that'll be it for today.
Yeah, awesome. So 420 Things Grow is in the chat.
Welcome.
Cannabis. Norma G's in the house, Mad Dog. So welcome, everybody. I hope you're enjoying the content on the platform you like. I'm a big YouTube guy, so I'm happy we've been able to figure this out. I was spamming 420 Things, some invites in COD yesterday while he was live, so he said he's going to return the favor to me. Unfortunately for him, my system's off. Yes, once in a while it does go off. Norma G with a great reminder, guys. Kurt versus H is coming up. Our plants are in the seedling stage. We're going to be releasing the videos a little bit delayed compared to season 1, just so we can get some nicer footage and just more engaging content instead of just checking in on how tall they are for the first little bit.
Yeah, and we're going to be doing stories live of how things are going in between, so you guys can have these insider scoops as well of the progress, and then these cool videos are going to drop, so we're looking forward to that.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, guys, so right now they're still in the bud cups. The plan was to transplant them and to flower them in a bud pot, but with the bud cups cup in idea stage, maybe we should finish them in the bud cups. Have you thought about that, H?
Making like a little bud cups cup.
Well, then, yeah, like we get the kind of early test out.
Yeah, we could totally do that.
Some strategies. So maybe we should do that. Let me know what you guys think about in the chat. Norma G's on Team Kurt.
Well, let's actually pull them out here.
Yeah,
let's look at them while we talk about them. But yeah, that's a great idea, and I think that would be great content for us to create from them for the actual competition.
Yeah, for sure. So the
for the actual
H plants are still in the prototypes, despite us now having the official samples.
Just move your computer back a tiny little bit.
For sure.
Perfect. No, it's in.
Yeah. South Dakota Stronger says, can't wait for the bud cups in April. We can't wait to ship them out to you guys. Like, it's really cool to see everybody with the bud clips, the bud huggers, and the bud. Yeah, you can tilt it down a little bit.
Okay,
it's
just
cool
move
to
it back
see
a little
everybody's content. Yeah, it's got everything in there. With our products currently, and this is just going to be another cool product to see in your grow at home and get your experience. The bud pots have made some changes since their initial design. The bud clips went from 3D printed to an injection mold, and a lot of that is because of feedback from growers like you, letting us know, how they're holding up when you're pushing them to the limits, and us trying to keep up with you guys and your wild adventures in the grow room.
That's right. Well, we are going to be showing you guys what we have here now. There's 2 different types of cups here. If you see, these ones are a little bit taller than the other ones. The official bud cups are these shorter ones here. We made them slightly shorter. Actually, you guys have the backs of them. I just realized I put all the fronts facing me. So what you have at the back here are all the little labels that we put on them for the strains that we have on the note space in the bud cups. But basically here you can see the clear difference between these two here. This is the prototype that we made, and these are the official bud cups here. They're slightly wider and slightly shorter because the initial ones we made, they tip off to the side and fall like this way too easily, especially when your plant grows a little bit bigger. So these ones here, they have the exact same volume, 16 ounces, which is the equivalent of a tall boy of like beer or whatever you drink. And this way, they don't fall off so easily, okay? They're a lot more, or a lot better to, more sturdy, easier to work with. Now, this one here, as you can see, the seedling, these ones, they've been out of the soil for about a week now. This one here is the only one that's taking forever. I actually had to replant it, and now it's taking a little longer than it should, but it's out there. So all of these here are going to be part of this grow along that we're going to be doing for the next 3 to 4 months. These three in the black cups, they're actually autoflowers. We're going to be trying these autoflowers out and transplanting them, which is something that a lot of growers don't recommend because of the stress that it causes to the autoflower plant. But with these bud cups and the easy transplant system that they have, where you just have to push the bottom to check out those roots, nothing really happens to them apart from a little bit of soil that falls out, that we're going to be testing out whether the autoflowers actually do well with the transplant or not. These ones here are all photo periods, and so are the 2 white widows that we're using here for the Kurt versus H competition. Maybe if your plants, we could just use these 2 here, unless you want to use the one that's still.
No, I have a good one that's going to beat yours.
So
I don't
there
really
we go.
want
You don't want any of these? Okay.
But on the notes of some of the intricacies of growing, Howard Cox on Instagram here said he's a new grower. He just ordered his first seeds, and he's freaking out about all the do's and don'ts of growing. So what would you maybe recommend for Howard there to focus on so he's not thinking about every single do and don't of the whole growth cycle?
Yeah, no, that's a great question there. Thank you for asking that. I mean, there are a lot of do's and don'ts for cannabis, but the more important thing is to focus on the things you shouldn't do that will kill your plant. And anything that makes your plant unhealthy is usually bad for your plant. Anything that makes your plant healthy is usually good for your plant. So things that you don't want to do are very simple. What does your plant need every day? Well, it needs to have water. If you don't give them water, they will suffer. If you give them too much water, they will also suffer. What else do they need? They need light. If you give them not enough light, they're going to grow really tall and skinny and might not give you much bud at all. But if you give them too much light, then you will burn them. Right? So what else do you need?
This is stressing me out more than it's
No, it comes down to those simple water, light, and then the other thing that you have is the CO2, because you need CO2 for photosynthesis. If you don't have CO2 in the air, that means that your plants are not going to be able to grow. If you have too much, that also means that you're not going to be able to grow. So it all comes down to, do you have the right amount of water, the right amount of light, the right amount of CO2, which if you live in a basement, you should have. And number 3 or number 4 you could add is the airflow, which is just a fan, something to circulate that air inside of your tent or the space that you have. Or if you're growing outdoors, having a way that your plant is actually going to catch natural airflow is going to increase the less likelihood of pests. So it's going to decrease the likelihood of pests, and it's also going to increase the fact that your plants are going to do more photosynthesis. But add too much wind, and then now your plants are all over the place. It's also not good, right? So
I think one thing too, Howard, to mention is these plants are so awesome that they'll tell you if something's going wrong, right? So if you have a game plan and you follow that game plan, the plant's going to show you that that game plan is working or not. And if it's not working, we have a fantastic community of growers, not only just H, who has a commercial cannabis degree, but also people who have been growing at their home for many years now and have successful grows that they can look back on and help you. So if you do run into problems, I think the basic thing is to keep things simple right away. If you run into problems, you reach out to people in the community. Our DMs are always open. YouTube is a great resource. We put a lot of videos out there. And if something's going wrong, you're going to be able to tell that pretty quickly.
That's exactly it. Kurt has a great point where the plants will react to how you're treating them. So if they're not getting the fertilizer that they need, So then you can reach out to the community to look at what the fertilizer issue is and feed them what they need, right? So cannabis plants, they're pretty straightforward as long as you follow a simple formula. If you try to overcomplicate it, that's when things get into trouble. So I highly recommend just keeping an eye on those basic things that every plant needs. It's not just cannabis. Every plant needs water, they need light, they need airflow. So as long as you have those things in check, you're feeding them some good fertilizer, or you're using soil that already comes pre-built with fertilizers, you're going to be on your way to successful growth.
Yeah, and I mean, keep things simple on the first one. You don't have to have premium bud on your first grow, but if you make it all the way to harvest and you have something that's consumable, I'd say that's a big win to start off with there. We've got Ben saying love from Germany on YouTube here.
What's going
that's
on, Ben?
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Let me see.
I think it was Ben that I just spoke with today. Was it not Ben?
Ben,
well,
maybe let us know in the comments.
Yeah. I just had a chat with Ben. Could have been this Ben.
Maybe.
Yeah,
if he's from Germany.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm sure there's maybe a couple Bens, but not as many that are watching
us.
us.
I know. Actually, before I forget, I keep playing around with this bud hugger. The reason why I picked it up, and look, I'm already tearing it to pieces, is that this seedling here, as you guys can see, is a little bit tippy. As soon as I got it out, I could see that the soil on top of it over here is a little bit loose. So what we're going to do is just use this bud hugger here to tighten it back up, just like this seedling has here. So the first thing that I like to do is just get a piece that's about 4 inches long. You're not going to have to stick it too deep into the ground. Then you're going to get the tip of it here, maybe just like a finger's worth, and you're going to bend it down like that. Then you're going to flip it around. You're going to get another finger's worth, and you're going to bend it down like that. So now you have this thing that has just a little shape going to the side like this, and then you're going to do another bend so that it actually forms the full horseshoe over there. Once you have this little horseshoe, all you have to do is go from the side that is opposite to the side that it's falling, so that you're pulling your seedling, and then very slowly start corking it around and screwing it inside of the soil here until it gets to about the height of the seedling that you want it to be, which is just about there. Now we can pull our seedling back and hook it on that bud hugger up, and then all you have to do is be careful not to squeeze the base of or the stalk of the stem of your seedling, and then you just want to close this bud hugger, because what happens sometimes is that the seedling overcompensates and then falls off to the other side. So this way here, it's locked in place. It has enough gap. Make sure that it's nice and loose in there so that you're not squeezing it. So it can grow in this bud cup inside of this bud hugger all the way until it's time for us to transplant it. So now it's got that support that it needs. This one over here almost doesn't need the support anymore, but we're going to leave it there for a little while. But that's what you guys do when your seedlings need a little support.
Awesome. Back to this experiment with autoflowers. I noticed Norma G said that they do transplant their autos. So actually back to Howard as well. Did you buy autoflowers or did you buy photo periods? Because I'm curious from somebody who's not experienced in growing cannabis what you wanted to start with. I started with photos. I don't even think I've grown an auto yet. You like autos quite a bit. They do have, would you say, a more simple process than photos comparatively?
Yeah, absolutely. And that was Ben right there. So welcome, Ben. Yeah, thanks for joining. So yes, the autoflowers, the reason why I like them is because they flower during a veg cycle's lighting schedule, right? So you can grow an autoflower in 18 hours on, 6 hours off for the entire time. It's going to go into flower naturally. That's why it's called an autoflower. Some people grow them in 24 hours of light, which is not recommended because then you don't get as much root growth. But some even go as far as 4 hours of light off and 20 hours on, which I also think is a little bit too much. 6 hours off, 18 hours on means that during the flowering stage, which takes 8 weeks or so for it to complete, you're getting an extra 6 hours a day of energy into those plants than a regular photo period would. The other advantage of the autoflowers on top of absorbing more light during the flowering cycle, that's why autoflowers a lot of times end up with those massive nugs, like massive, that you can't usually see on a lot of the photo periods. And that's because they're able to get that much more light and grow that much more during the flowering cycle, while the other ones are only getting 12 hours of light. The other thing that I love about autoflowers is that they grow very fast. In 4 weeks, they're going to be flowering already, which means that 3 weeks later, they're done the stretch period, and then they just put on that thickness, and you can usually finish an autoflower within 90. Some of them are even faster, at which point you're not getting, that much more yield. But 90 days to 120 days, that's a perfect time for an out of flower that you're going to start. You're not going to have to do much work. You're just going to have to let them naturally transition into that stage and start supporting those buds. What we're going to do with these cups here, though, is that we're going to transplant them on week 4 of the veg cycle, which is around the stage that they start to put out the pistils to start flowering. So the roots at that point are going to have started just touching the sides of the bud cups here, not circling around or anything like that we don't want. And then we're going to pop them out, put them in the new pot so they can grow out for another 3 to 4 weeks, which is how long they will still grow for once they go into the flowering cycle.
Awesome. Bruce Goofy Growing is in the house. What up, sir?
Welcome.
A few people here jumping in on Instagram.
As you guys can see, we have a computer right in front of us here.
Yeah.
That's what we keep kind of like looking at.
I feel like the Jamie to the Joe Rogan here. Actually, it almost looks more like, you might not get this reference, but Don Cherry, Ron McLean.
Oh, I know Don Cherry.
For the hockey fans, Ron was always just the one like managing Don Cherry and then keeping him on track and making sure he knows when we've only got a couple seconds left in the broadcast.
Make sure he shouldn't say what he shouldn't say about apart from that one last time.
Yeah, I mean, he was a victim of cancel culture, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know if you follow the Ohio news recently, but there's some interesting talks coming about reneging on some of their new rules about homegrown cannabis. I'm not sure if we have anybody in Ohio from here, but you guys just got legalized for home growing. We're super excited for everybody in Ohio. We've had one of their best retailers join the BudTrainer authorized retailer fam in Toledo Home Grow. Awesome guys over there. They have a great Instagram page as well if you want to check them out. But yeah, it's that battle of legalization in the States that's just been happening over decades. In Canada, we've been lucky that it's been legal now for a while, but there's still that push and pull from the Republicans and the Democrats going on in the States. So
yeah, it's not even only about both sides, because there's a lot of people on both sides that want it and don't want it to happen. Of course, more on the Democrat side that want it to happen and so on. But the issue is with all of the lobbying that happens around these industries, right? So when you have a lot of pharmaceutical influence in the government of a state, and a lot of actually the prison system, which are the top 2 lobbying industries in all of North America, they are the ones that spend the most money on government to change the law. And they don't want cannabis, because cannabis being illegal is good for the pharmaceutical industries, because then they're consuming more pharmaceuticals, and it's also good for the prison system because there's more people incarcerated because of it. They just issued millions of pardons last month for people to basically get out of jail. Imagine those jails. They're all losing money. That's why they put so much money toward keeping cannabis the way it is. It's them that we really have to fight to be able to make change. And in the end, politicians, they're just following what people want. And if the majority of people want cannabis to become legalized, they're going to have to do it. That's what is so great about America and North America in general, that we live in a democracy, right? So as long as we can keep those strong forces at bay, we're going to make headway. And it's too bad that things like that, like in Ohio, get pulled back. In Thailand as well, they announced legalization last year, and now they're talking about pulling legalization. That's an entire country. They could have so much business because Thailand has the perfect climate for cannabis. There's actually a lot of land races of cannabis that came out of Thailand, but instead of doubling down on it, like for example Colombia is doing, where they're really spending money and resources into growing medicinal cannabis, and they're shipping everything to Europe because they're like, we want to be first, just like they did with coffee, back in the 1960s, 70s, and Colombian coffee became known all over the world. Soon enough, they're going to be known for their cannabis, and too bad to see countries like Thailand kind of pulling out of this race when they should be actually really doubling down and getting in on it.
Speaking of Colombia, they have done a great job of being the world renowned for agricultural products.
That's correct. Yeah, all kinds.
Legal or not legal. Actually, speaking of Ohio, Mr. Ohio Rowe just joined up, so maybe he's got some insight on what's happening there. We have some comments coming in on YouTube. Norma G says, we don't care here in Europe. Maybe we don't care about the law. So good for you.
Yeah.
All the power to you. Hopefully nobody's watching the stream that has ill intentions.
No ill intentions.
South Dakota is fighting for rec this year. You know what? I just saw something in Florida. where they're trying to limit the potency of bud to 10%
Right.
THC.
I saw that.
I'm like, so maybe like Seedsman might have an opportunity there to just do like 9.9%
Yeah,
THC
exactly.
strains. But I mean, how do you police that? Like, why put it'd be like saying, okay, we're going to legalize cocaine, but it can only be 10% cocaine.
That's
like,
right. Yeah, yeah.
Like, how are you going to figure that out?
It's going to be very difficult. Yeah, I bet you that there's going to be all these companies coming out with these like little THC testers that a cop would have to come and test, but like it's just so hard to enforce. I don't think it's ever going to go forward or come to fruition. You know what I mean? I mean, it's better to have 10% weed than no weed, but in the end, I think that it just doesn't make sense to have that limitation.
Well, and to your point too, the reason it's becoming legalized is because the majority of the people want it. But now you've got this caveat of 10% THC levels, and I would really like to know who came up with that, because obviously they don't really know what they're talking about. And even in Canada, it's interesting, like a 4-plant limit. You could have 4 autoflowers that give you 5 or 6 grams of weed if you just, cut off all the branches and make these little plants. Or you could have 4 plants like H grows that are each putting out, half a pound of weed. So it's just like these rules are, they haven't perfected them yet. It's nice to see things moving in the legalization direction. Mad Dog likes the 10% Coke idea there.
Look over there.
What?
When you're looking at them.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No worries. I'm just looking at the chat here too.
Oh,
Mad Dog likes the 10% Coke thing. But anyways, yeah, just very strange that these rules are being put in place like that. It's some progression, but not great progression. But wherever it is legalized, you're going to find BudTrainer. We're going to still be pumping out educational information to you guys. And any questions, guys? Is anybody in the middle of a grow? We didn't have a chance to set up any invites for growers for this week, but please keep in mind that we'd love to have you guys on to show your grow. We can do a live training with H.
That's right.
Especially if you have some bud clips and bud huggers, and kind of walk you through that progress as well. Norma G confirms that they are a rebel. Native Thai weed is the best.
Oh,
so Norma G said that. Have you ever had Thai weed before?
Not pure land races, no. But a lot of the strains that we consume today, probably some of these here, there's some Thai in them.
Really?
It's a very basic land race that was brought to North America a long time ago and then got spread out to a lot of places. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the nice thing about growing in tents is you don't have to limit yourself to strains that thrive in your local climate, right? Because I can't imagine there's too many that love it in Canada.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. Being this cold of a climate, that's why autoflowers really developed. It's because in places like the extremes, the days would either not change, or when you're in they would change too much too quickly. So you would go from a short day to a long day, or a long day to a short day very fast. And in where the days don't change, like for example in Colombia, where it's always a 12-hour day, these autoflowers had to develop a system to flower that wasn't based on the light. Because if the photo periods waited until the light cycle was good enough in North America, it would be too late, and then it's getting too cold. They're dying off in the winter. If they were waiting for the day to change in Colombia, where the day never changes, well, they would never flower. So they had to develop different systems to start them flowering earlier than they really should.
That's very interesting. Would that be why we have autoflowers then?
That's correct.
Some of the genetics.
That's absolutely it. Yeah. So, Curtis, to that point, the autoflowers, what they do is, instead of relying on the length of the day changing for them to flower, what they rely on is the ratio of carbon inside of them, which is really what makes everything. We're all made of carbon particles, right? And it's all the sugars that are in them. So they look at the ratio of carbon to nitrogen. Nitrogen is what forms a lot of your leaves. So once the plants reach a size that there's enough carbon inside of them, enough sugars that is higher than the nitrogen that has to be there, it says, you know what? I have enough energy stored in here that I can flower and survive until the end. So then it starts flowering. That's the trigger. So if you actually want to start your autoflowers earlier, what you have to do is reduce the nitrogen, because then that carbon to nitrogen ratio is going to increase. But of course, you don't want to reduce your nitrogen to the point that you're giving them a deficiency. However, that's just something to consider. And if you want to delay the flowering process, you can increase the nitrogen a lot, which is going to mean that the plant needs to grow more carbon to be able to outstand all of that nitrogen that that it's putting out. So that's basically how autoflowers work and how they started. Yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea. Wadapoo Willie, what is the latest you've ever topped a photo period plant? Now we recommend topping after the 5th node for the BudTrainer method, but you can certainly top before or after that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're considering the first topping, you can top whenever. We recommend topping after the 5th node because the plant's about this big, and you top it, then it doesn't grow a very tall stalk, and you can start bushing it out pretty early. But if you have a plant that's grown, and it's not flowering yet, so never top a plant that's in the flowering stage. It's going to be highly stressful. You don't want to do that. But if the flower is in the veg stage, you can always top it at any time. I'd recommend top it even if it's too long now already, because at least it's going to spread that energy and grow those side branches a little more instead of continuing to grow tall, which if you're outdoors, you risk the wind breaking it. If you're indoors, you risk it hitting your light. So yeah, the topping can happen during the veg stage at any time. The other question, or the other part of this question is, you can top as many times into veg until the flower cycle happens. So the plants that we do outdoors that have a really long veg cycle until they naturally switch, what we do is we top it after the 5th node, then we wait for those nodes to grow. We top them again when they reach the edge of the pot. So then all of those other branches grow. And if we have the opportunity, we'll top those branches one more time, which then multiplies the plant by even more branches, at which point the flowering cycle starts and off they go. I've seen people top it up to a 4th time, which is a lot of times. And but again, you can top it until the flowering cycle, usually 1 week before flowering starts. That's what we recommend.
Yeah, because you can stress them out, right? And that leads to a few issues as well.
Oh yes, if you stress your plants out too much before flowering starts, you risk getting hermaphrodites. Even myself, I've been guilty of overtraining my plants too much, topping them, and then switching right away to flower. And sure enough, 2 weeks later, I start seeing all of these males coming out. And there's been times where I only looked at them after, say, 3 weeks, and then I come in, the bottom buds, they have males on them, whereas the top ones don't, which means that they form the males due to that stress just before the flowering cycle. So it's very important for you to wait at least a week between topping and training your plants.
This question actually reminded me of something that I just changed with the BudTrainer method itself. Is I was topping for a second time way too early. So I would top my plant as soon as those 2 shoots that became the main shoots started showing a node. I would top after the 1st node. And what happened for me was I grew these super lanky plants that would grow big buds and just topple over so easily. And what H explained to me was if you actually wait for those 2 main new shoots to have 2 or 3 nodes, that then you can top above there and remove the nodes and shoots below there. You'll create a stronger structure that can support those buds, and it's probably less stressful for the plant, would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. And the problem with topping subsequently too fast, say within a week between one topping and the other, is that you don't give your plant enough time to recover from that stressful event. To your plant, it's just like, oh, something just ate half of me. You know what I mean? Like, what happened here? It needs to restructure itself and adapt. So if you top it and then you top it again right away, it's almost like you slowed it down, and then as soon as you're starting to catch some speed, you slow it down again, you know? So it's like what you want to do is let it grow to a certain size, and then you top it. It's already stressful. Let it grow again, put out more leaves, because more leaves means more light exposure. Then you top them again, and when you top, make sure to remove very little material. Don't wait too far to top, and then you're removing a large chunk of branch. You want to top them and remove as little a piece as possible, because that's less stressful for the plant. It means that it didn't waste all of that energy in a part that is going to be chopped off later.
Awesome. Mr. Stoney Farms, welcome to the chat.
What's going on?
We are 30 minutes in here, so hopefully everybody's enjoyed so far.
Yeah.
If you have any questions before we start to wrap up here, please do let us know, and H would be happy to answer that. Again, we'll get some more of you guys on for next week. Maybe we'll have some guests, see if some of the other growers are interested in jumping on here. Anything you want to talk about here, H?
No, I think that we covered a lot of topics today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If we don't have anybody coming in live, I think we're almost ready for a wrap here. I mean, there's not much to talk about these little babies apart from the fact that I found a couple of fungus gnats zooming around here. So I had a real bad fungus gnat problem last year. I'm thinking about buying the preventative bugs right away so that I don't even run the risk of having fungus gnats.
Poor H, literally 30 seconds before we go live, he noticed some fungus gnats. So I can only imagine how that made you. That made you feel. South Dakota Scrogger, when will the Bud Cups be shipping? So they will be in production until just before April, likely, and then we'll be shipping them out for April. You'll ideally have them before 4/20 when we're doing a live planning for the outdoor plant that H is going to be growing here.
Yep.
In May, a month after that, we'll be doing a live transplant outdoors. So that's going to be super exciting. And then, of course, we'll be giving some updates on the Bud Cups Cup as that develops. Speaking of the Bud Cups, guys, you only have 36 more hours to pre-order. I'm sure everybody in the live here who are big fans of BudTrainer have already pre-ordered. But if you have some friends that are slackers who said that it's on their to-do list, but they haven't done it yet, please do remind them because that will be taken down in 36 hours, guys. What a wild ride that was. I mean, we went live the day our campaign went live. We had a super exciting day here. We had Juliana from our team here as well. Had a lot of purchases right on that first 24 hours, and then things slowed down, which is totally understandable. And we had to grind it out, but we are almost at our goal. We expect to hit our goal within the next 36 hours, and we've already kind of made some progress with the manufacturer anyways.
That's right. Yeah, they're real already. They're here, right? So there's no more ifs whether they're going to come to the market or not. Our distributors, they have already purchased them as well or pre-order them so that they can distribute to all of the stores that they're going to be selling to. And we have a number of retailers as well that already got in on the Bud Cups that are going to be receiving them in April and making it available at their stores.
Yeah, and we don't say this enough, guys. Like Amazon, they're not going to miss you guys if you're not buying from them. But your local hydroponics store is definitely missing you. So
that's right.
Not only do they have all the products that you're going to need, they're very knowledgeable people. So like I said to Howard earlier, if you're running into problems, there's a good chance that your local hydro store owner is an experienced grower in cannabis, and they can be a resource right in your hometown. So it's kind of hard for us to determine what's going on via video sometimes, although H is very good at it. But having somebody come over to your house, you guys could share some product while you're there and build a relationship. I think that's something that this community already does very well, but just sticking together and making sure we're helping each other out is huge. One last question here from Mad Dog before we go. Water before nip. I'm assuming that means, do you water your plants before you top them, or do you wait till after that? So I know with training, it's probably better not to water them before you train because they're a little bit more flimsy, whereas a watered plant's going to be a bit more firm.
That's right. Yeah. So when you train, what is that? When you train your plant. Oh, it's this here because the humidity is so low, and it's beeping because of the low humidity threshold. Okay, there we go. So anyhow, sorry, what was the question again?
Do you water before you top?
Oh yeah, so before the topping, no, I wouldn't recommend that or the training because the thing is when the plants are filled with water, that means that they're already pushing the water through and evaporating that water through the leaves through transpiration. So when you top it before watering and then you water, the plant's not going to waste the energy putting all that water through. In fact, when you top after watering, you really usually see a little drop of water come out of the plant because it's full, right? So I would recommend doing the training, like you said, Curtis, or the watering usually at the nighttime or before your plants are going to bed because they're already getting ready for the nighttime. The leaves are going down. The branches are getting more flimsy, which reduces the chance of you breaking them as well.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think that's a great place to wrap it up, guys. Thank you very much for joining us. Send us a DM if you want to come on one of these lives. It's super easy. We just send you a link. We'll get you on for however long you're comfortable, probably just 2 or 3 minutes. We can do a live training, stuff like that, and we will see you next week.
Yeah.
I'll let you sign off.
Yeah. Thank you very much, guys. Have a good weekend, and we'll see you guys in another 7 days.